Okay, hiya, it's Poonam here. Welcome to the webinar. We are just going to get started with the workflow 2, so the center initiated workflow this time. That's it.
Ooh, hello.
Hiya. We've turned your audio on because there's only a couple of you on the on the call this morning.
Right, fair enough.
So any questions, shout them out. But otherwise we will get started.
Okay.
So today's webinar is all about center initiated workflow. So we're talking about kicking off the workflow from Quartz Web. We have got a job aid available on the website, and we've done these when we did the user group a couple of years ago. The process that you will have been through in terms of workflows so far are from the previous kind of 2 webinars. We've drawn all of the state transition diagrams, adjusted all the features in terms of the statuses, set up all the emails, the colors, etc., to get your workflow exactly how you want it within Quartz. This webinar is now going to talk to you about how to set that up on Quartz Web, how to make them visible, how to and how to get your centers to initiate them, as well as set up all of the permissions for them to be able to see the particular events that you would like them to see. So as a starter, what we'll do is we'll take you onto Quartz Web and we will show you a little bit of a demo in terms of how the centers would initiate the workflows and just adding a couple of steps to move the workflow on. So I am now just going to log into our training system. Okay, so I'm just logged in as a center administrator at a particular center. All of the workflow activities is off the Actions tab on the tracking menu. So similar to Quartz, where you use the tracking sheet to track all of your events on workflow, tracking menu on the Actions tab is where you go on Quartz Web. This will show you any of the workflows that you are a part of that are in your responsibility list or actually just assigned that you've initiated or that you are part of. At the moment, the screen is only going to show you all of the current workflows that are in progress, but you can obviously see any that have been completed and also just have it view all of them if you want to. So we've got a couple of ones going at the moment, but in order to kick a new workflow off, you simply click on the Initiate Workflow item button, which will appear at the top of the screen. Getting button to appear is a configuration in Quartz, which we'll talk through in just a minute. So to initiate a new workflow on the web, you're going to select which workflow you want to initiate. I've got a load of ones in the list, but we're going to go for the Portico approved internal verifier application one. So you'll notice that this this bit of text appears after clicking on the workflow. Oh, sorry. There we go. Sorry, zooming in a little bit. And this is a piece of feedback text which you can have that accompanies each workflow. So you can have a set of instructions, a little bit more information about what the workflow does, or just client-specific information that they might need in order to complete it or have this set of documents ready, etc., etc. So we'll just click Next. And this then takes you to a little bit of a kind of wizard page. This is designed to kind of guide you through to get all the initial information that you will need to complete the workflow, or the initial information you will need for whatever application that we're doing. So for ours, we're going for an approved internal verifier, so we'll need to add an internal verifier. Again, this is feedback text, and we'll have a look at where this all gets set up just a little bit later on. So I will pick a person and add them below. They come up in the little screen and just click Next. So this is all I need for my particular workflow. If there's any additional information that I wanted to submit, I can type it in this box, but otherwise I just click Submit. Again, feedback text above, so we can tailor it and make sure that there's enough information so the client knows exactly what they're doing at each stage in the process. Right, so this then takes us to the events page of our workflow that we've just kicked off. We now have an ID, so it's an event in Quartz that has now been created. This top section here is all feedback feedback text, which is set on the particular status. So at the moment, our status of our application is that we're waiting for submission of particular documents. So the workflow is asking for us to upload a copy of a CV. And once we've uploaded the copy of the CV, it will move on for another status. So here we're actually giving a bit more information as to what we're expecting the centre to do in terms of what we need for them to progress this workflow on. So in terms of this, we would get them to upload a document, exactly the same document facility that you see all over Quartz Web. They can pick a document type and then just go off and choose a file and upload one. If you had online PDFs and you had documents that were made visible at certain stages in the process, they would appear in this grid as well, and they could be editable from here. There's a separate webinar on online PDFs already available on the user manual, so you can go off and watch that. Exactly the same as how events work in Quartz. Events are always, the workflows are always moved on by adding an actual date or adding an actual step in order to indicate that a step has happened, and that will move the status and move the workflow on. So it's the same concept that will appear on Quartz Web. We would, in order to move this on, for example, if we had uploaded a document, we would then select the application submitted step. It comes up with the date field. We can add in today's date and then click submit. So it comes up as item has been successfully added and then refreshes the page. So we've now moved on because actually the text at the top of the screen is now not asking for a CV anymore. We've moved on to the process that we're now internally, the AO would be looking at these documents. Again, you can still see that the step is still there, so you can amend the step if you needed to, change the date, add more information if you wanted to add a note as the center, and also you can see that the contact is still added just below. Oh, sorry. The badges in terms of the number next to it just means that there's one contact attached to this event, and also that there's only one step currently attached to this event. And there's currently no documents for this, so it doesn't have a badge next to it. So if I just go back to the tracking menu just for a second, you will see that we've got our new Portico approved internal verifier event. It's got the nice naming template with the contact name in it, and we're at a status of initial review ready underway. And they will be able to see that, and they will be able to track their process as they go through the workflow. So we'll now move into Quartz, and I will show you how this is set up in terms of configuring it to be center initiated workflow. So there are 3 broad steps involved to getting a workflow to be a center initiated workflow. The first one is in the event management screen. If you find the workflow that you're looking for, so mine was the Portico approved internal verifier one. The first thing you need to do is make sure that the workflow itself and all of the steps are visible on the web. So there's a Quartz Web visible checkbox, and that needs to be ticked against the workflow itself and any steps that you would like to be visible. So ones, for example, for our workflow, we've got declined, we've got confirmed and stuff. That possibly, those are possibly steps that you would not want to be visible on Quartz Web, but the steps where the clients would actually have to initiate them or actually take in terms of the ready and waiting for the kind of, waiting for additional info steps would be useful for them to have on Quartz Web. The second part of this is to actually create kick it off as a center initiated workflow, and that's done by clicking on this button at the top. Oh, where's the message gone? There we go. So this opens a little pop-up window here, and this is similar to the tabs that we saw when we kicked off the workflow in terms of you move from the general, you add your contacts, you move through the tabs exactly the same as you would on Quartz Web, depending on the information that you would want to be submitted. So on the general tab, this is the first screen that they see in terms of once they've picked the workflow. And you could give a little bit more information about what the workflow does and what particular needs or documentation you might want. for them to be submitting at this point. Move on to the organizational contact. So for the workflow that we've got set up, it's an approved internal verifier. So we're asking them to submit one or more organizational contacts as part of the workflow. We want them to submit a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 1. And again, we've got feedback text, so you can make it as specific as you would like. You can restrict on classifications on all of the screens to only allow certain contacts with particular classifications to appear in the drop-down list on Quartz Web if you would like to. And it's a similar concept across all of the rest of the tabs. So you check the box if that is information that you would like to require. So for example, if you had a qualification approval event, then you would possibly have other qualifications, take that and get them to submit which qualification they would like approval for. But it works in exactly the same way, that you check the box, get them to put in a minimum and a maximum number, and then add some feedback text which will appear as they move through the screens on Quartz Web. The final screen is the submit information, and this is the screen that appears just above the text box that appears where they can the center can add notes. So again, any additional information that you can that you would want them to submit or add, you can add into this screen here. So I'm just going to expand that out. This final screen is based on the statuses of the actual events. So the top section of the screen, this is going to be ongoing in terms of what they can see on the workflow. So at each stage of the process, on each of the steps, they will be able to see any information that you add in here. The important parts are the feedback text that you can apply for each of the statuses. So for example, for a waiting application, we added additional information in terms of we would want the center to upload a copy of the CV, upload and also add in a step. So some details in terms of the actions that they need to take. It's good in terms of it means that they don't actually see the status that you've got. It gives them a bit more information and is good for feedback in terms of we're in the process of doing this, so they can always see what status the event is at. The last part, I'm just going to close this screen. The last part of setting up center-initiated workflows is to make the workflows appear for certain roles and have certain roles be able to add, initiate, and edit certain steps. So any workflows appear in this bottom grid below. I've just picked the center administrator profile at the moment. I will scroll down to the bottom where we should find our Portico approved event. So at the moment, I've got all the steps visible apart from the escalation step. But again, you would be quite selective in terms of what you would want the center to be able to add and initiate, to be able to add the overall event that the Portico the approved internal verifier event would need to have the can add initiate in order to get that button appear. But then the can edit, again, that's in terms of editing, in terms of being able to change the steps. Trying to think. Yeah, so in terms of the visibility will only make it visible. For the center to be able to add and initiate, they need to check each of the steps they would need to do this functionality for. And again, the same with the edit as well. You can apply to all three. The visible to contacts only will make sure that if the workflow has got a contact attached, it will only be that contact that can see the event. Nobody else will be able to see the event. Okay, there is going to be a part 3 of workflows. It's going to be in a few days' time, and all of the dates will be available on the user manual page, the webinars page of the user manual. Oh, and this recording will be on the user manual if you would like to watch it after. It'll be up in the next couple of days. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay,
Good,
thank
thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye.